Okay, so
Yes.
I will start now at 14:12. I'll try to keep track of this. Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm really delighted to take you through my journey in ELT, which Shelley more or less introduced by talking about the rough diamonds and the balance that help with our journeys and trying out new things. And Rosa Aronson yesterday also spoke a lot about women throughout history, or at least the history that she and I shared, of being at university in the 60s and 70s and what that whole women's movement did for us. So my journey began when I moved from New York City, where I was working in advertising and in business, and running a small opera company with a colleague from university, to Graz, Austria, where I had planned to audition for the opera houses, become a singer. But as we all know, we need a day job. And I thought, what do I do? I had taught music in the States. I didn't want to teach music again. It really wasn't something that I enjoyed a lot. So I got into adult education. And I was very lucky that I wound up at the Chamber of Commerce with a group of adults. Now, being a singer, I played the guitar for every single class I had and spent hours looking for materials that suited my classes, chose songs that had to do with specific grammar points or vocabulary, and we had a lot of fun. And it was very interesting. At the same time, I began, I learned German, but I also began to get lots and lots of different methodologies. I did a diploma in adult education through this, but I also got involved in things like Suggestopedia. And a student of mine who changed from general to business English came in and saw that I had no guitar and said, "Where's the guitar?" And I said, I didn't think I'd use it for business English. She said, "You know something, after the whole day thinking in German, I need a song to switch my brain to English." Fascinating thought. So I started using the guitar also for business English classes. I also tutored school kids, and I was able to learn the English grammar through a school book that they had, which explained it all, explained the English grammar, but with the German words, which was something that I needed. And I still remember all of this today. I also, of course, had to learn German, which gave me an insight to what my students were going through at the time. Okay. I'd like to also go back to say I had planned to do a linear timeline, and I realized it didn't work. So this is a little bit more in categories, but it's kind of touching on the different times that these things happened in my journey. So I started going to lots and lots of training courses, everything that I could. The university here held courses that were either free or very reasonable. I did my NLP training. I went to the US. I actually went and met Robert Dilts, who was my trainer, before I took the course with him because I wanted to make sure he was someone I could work with. I became a master practitioner of NLP. I then became a trainer. Took the plunge and started doing teacher training along with a colleague. The first ones I did were in German, and then began holding them on many, many different topics. And then I took a chance. There was a conference in Innsbruck, and I held my first presentation. And I arrived with my stuffed animal to throw around and discovered I was in one of those auditoriums where fixed seats, and it went in layers, not layers, these stairs you have to go up to get to the seats, but we still did it. It was so much fun. And I thought, okay, done my first one. I can now do my second. And then I joined IATEFL BSIC. That was 1995, which of course made me a member of IATEFL. And through that, I got to meet Herbert Puchter, had a chat with him. He told me to apply for the Teacher Training Academy. I did, and they gave me a job. I was very surprised. And at the same time, I also started to write articles. And then through a colleague, I had been creating activities. I mean, we all do our own activities for classes. We know how important this is. And I started putting things together, and I thought, maybe I can get it published. I sent it off. I remember copying these on different colored pages for the different units. and sent them off to all these publishers who sent it back unopened. And then a colleague said, let me talk to my dad. He knows a publisher. And an Austrian publisher decided to publish Communicative Business Activities. And that was my first foray into the world of publishing. I also took a chance and wrote for ETP. And through our local teacher association, Teachers of English in Austria, my name got out there and I was asked to work on this course book, which was called Friends, which was for the Austrian schools. And I have to say, I learned an enormous amount doing that. It is always a learning experience. Even if you don't become the next big course writer, what you learn from it is absolutely invaluable. So going on, I was working in various places, and then somebody told me to go over to the university because they were looking for people. And I thought, okay, I'll give it a try. And they took me in the Language Institute. It was a lot of fun because I was free to do what I liked. I taught in the language department, which is for students of all faculties. And the students were there to brush up their English. And I was going back and finding all my old Jill Hadfield activities and my communication games and all of these various things I had done for years and years with adults. Students loved it, but I also added in new ideas. Vicki Hollett's wonderful videos, for example. I learned to use Moodle. It just expanded me as a teacher in so many ways. And I was very lucky that my boss was very open to ideas, and I was able to run a research project on learning styles and strategies with students. I know it's a controversial subject, but at university they were very interested in it, and my students were very excited by it. And it was fascinating to see that it didn't matter what country they came from. Somebody from China or from Poland or from the US who was visual did many of the same things, or somebody who was auditory. And the final result that was so fascinating for me in this was that students, at the end, I gave them a question: what helped you learn? Not what did you like? That's not the same. What helped you learn? Many of them chose the same activity, but gave different reasons for it. So they might say, I like this activity, or I learned from it because I was able to speak with somebody, or because I was able to see something, or because it was detailed, or because we discussed it in class. And that was so interesting. And then it went on to, I got involved in writing business materials for major publishers. I was able to write for Cambridge. Then I was asked if I wanted to become a Cambridge oral examiner. And I was already towards the end of my career. And I thought, why not? Why not try it? It was really interesting learning how it worked. And that led to work on writing CD-ROMs for exam course books on FCE and CAE. And then I was so lucky that Delta took a chance and allowed me to write the book I had been wanting to write for years, Spotlight on Learning Styles. And at the same time, I was working on course books in Poland, another learning experience. Keeping an eye on the time because we started differently. So volunteer work has been a part of my life for years. I was on the board of Teachers of English in Austria. I was chair of T at one point. I joined the IATEFL BASIC committee. I became the coordinator and learned an enormous amount, and then joined the membership committee of IATEFL, where I got to organize webinars, which was also an enormous amount of fun. I see that I'm getting close to the end of time. Became the acting vice president of IATEFL and the president of IATEFL. And this little teddy bear was something that we used as a marketing idea to represent IATEFL, and the little plaque was my Christmas present from my lovely partner who printed it on his 3D printer. So it's something I hold dear to my heart. And going on, I was never very technically advanced and was always afraid of technology in class, but I began to tweet. I joined a PLN, a personal learning network. I started to write for Professional English Online, which I did for a number of years. Joined ELT Chat, which was a whole new world for me. Started to contribute to the ELT picks. I taught on my first EVO course, which was amazing. And through that EVO course for BASIC, we got some incredible BSIC members who came to the Malta conference, and we got to meet up. I started to blog, and then I gave my first talk for EFLtalks. So where am I now? Well, now I get to hold plenaries in countries that I'd never been to, which is really fun. Working on a teacher development research project for the university, which we're going to tell you about at the end of this. I'm still working with my wonderful corporate clients. I love them. They are great. I learn from them every time I go to a lesson. I'm now on an author team for a new business English course book through Pearson, finishing up my VP term at IATEFL, and trying to decide what I'm going to be doing in the future. Who knows what the future is going to bring? My plans are to continue with my PLN. I can't imagine giving it up. I've had the luck of being able to travel to places as far away as Moscow and Peru. I've got places coming up, Moldova, Romania, Bulgaria, new ideas for plenary talks, learning from my colleagues around the world, and there's some projects kind of in the background that I'm thinking about, possibly something on NLP, possibly something on learner psychology, and of course, continuing up those stairs to new roads and to going on to discovering new things. It never ends. And this is the message that I hope that I would like to leave you with. These journeys continue on and on. Thank you.